All right, now let's try it again. So again, if you can hear me now, I just adjusted one of the settings there. Just say yes, I can hear you, or put yes, I can hear you now. Just want to make sure that everybody can hear me okay before we get going here. So try that. Now if you can hear me. So if you can hear me now, say yes, I can hear you. Okay, it looks, can't hear you using Chrome. I don't know about Chrome. I know Chrome is better than Internet Explorer. I hate Internet Explorer. Just my own personal opinion on it. Okay, so a lot of people are saying yes, I can hear you now, which is good. I think we got that fixed. Okay, great. Now what we're gonna do is if you can see the screen, it should say stories that sell, my 12-step formula to create selling stories. Then just type in yes, I see the screen, or yes for screen, or whatever you want to say. Just make sure, guys, more than just I got yes, I can hear you now. Yes, Chrome. And good to see you, Ed, out there in Toronto. Okay, I can hear you in Spain. Jacinta, great. I hope Jacinta, is that correct? Is that the way it's pronounced? Which is great. It's good to have you from over in Spain. Okay, Anne says she can see the screen. If I can see any other ones, just get feedback before we get started here. Bud and Sandy, I see it. Anybody else? Just make sure it is there. John Stevens, good to see you on the call here. John, you have been on since day one. I really appreciate it. Rochelle's out there. Chris, Deborah, wow, it's just flying by here. All right, good. We got everything good to go. So finally, we're ready to go. We're gonna roll. This is June 29th, and we are going to be talking about stories that sell. This is really going to be a fun one. It's one of my near and dear in the Croc-Brain selling formula. And again, guys, a lot of you here, some are new, some are in the Croc-Brain selling formula system. If you want to learn more about that, it's a whole teaching site. You can go to you can just email me at, if you just email me at crocbrain.com. This is the, let me give you the address. Let's see, we'll go over here. So just down here, crocbrain.com. If you want to find out more about that. And then again, before we get started, you're welcome, John. Before we get started, for this webinar too, guys, we're going to be doing a Q&A at the end. So you guys kind of got the drill down about how to use the chat. So if you have any kind of question, it could be on stories. It's how to do this storytelling thing. It can be on anything that you're using in the Croc-Brain system, conversation starters, could be on selling skills, could be on closing, conversions, how to do the limbic implant, or even what the heck that is. But I want to make sure that we answer all of your questions. So I'm going to stay on for a few minutes. This one probably won't go the full hour, so we'll have some time at the end. And I think it's good that we have Q&A so you guys can interact and ask me questions. And I think that's valuable too, because that way, here's the thing. I always found out, guys, if you have a question, don't be ashamed to ask it. It's not a dumb question. There are no stupid questions. There's only people that don't ask questions, and that's, I think, is kind of stupid. So ask your question, because if you're wondering it, probably a lot of people on this call. We got people from all over the world. A lot of people have jumped in on this call, which is great to see. And so just type in on the chat. And again, if you don't want me to use your name, you guys kind of got the drill. There's a private. You can send it to me privately. I won't use your name then. If you want me to use your name, if you're okay with that, then just make it public to the chat room. So somebody asked, was there a link to replay for last week's webinar? Yes, there is. It should have been delivered to you automatically if you registered. So go back and look in your email. Again, if you did not get it, since this one was a private, I won't say their name. So basically, if you didn't get it, then what you want to do is go ahead and send me an email to crocbrain@gmail.com, and I'll send that out to you guys. So make sure you got it, because I want everybody to follow along here with the learning. Okay, So we're going to jump in, and thanks, Ivan. Good sound and video. Awesome. Carrie says clear! Exclamation point. All right. So guys, we're going to jump in here. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. You're actually going to do a little test. So make sure you have a pen and paper by you. And most importantly, really tonight is not necessarily, you can write notes if you want, but in the story part of it, I just want you to put your listening cap on and do a lot of listening, because this is going to be really key. And I'm going to show you, this is, I did this for the Difference Makers call for you guys that were on there. But again, if you were, this is great because you get repetition. Repetition is always good with learning in the brain. But if you weren't, this will be our second time worldwide at doing this experiment to show you how much you recall of a story that you heard the first time to prove my point. I've got a little bit of a follow-on for that after I tell the story and some of the things that we'll talk about there. So let's go ahead and we're going to dive in right now on Stories That Sell, my 12-step formula to create selling stories. I love, the format. We did announcements. Tonight I'm flying solo. Dan's listening in, and I think Lynette's on there. She's listening in. We don't really have any new announcements. The weekly information. Oh, one thing I want to tell you guys too is this next weekend is in the United States of America is July 4th, Independence Day weekend. Friday is July 4th, woohoo. So I will not be doing a Sunday webinar for you guys, and then I'm heading out of country. I'm going to go down to hang out in Costa Rica for a little while, but I'll be back. So don't worry, we're not gonna, this is not going to stop. But for the next whatever 2 or 3 weeks, you can catch me by email. I'll be around on email, but other than that, we won't be doing some webinars. Then we'll get back into training and all that kind of stuff. So between now and Friday, if there's anything you need, if you have emails or you want some kind of a quick start cheat sheet guide, or you want to find out more about the Croc-Brain selling formula, or you want to ask your questions and get some help from me, do it between now and Thursday, and because I'm shutting down on Friday for Independence Day. All right. So let's get moving here. And then the other thing too is I have heard from some of you. I always love hearing your stories about how you're applying what you're learning, what's working for you. I talked to Dan the other day. He's just massively turning it up out there. So good job, Dan. It's awesome. But email it to crocbrain@gmail.com, and just send me what, hey, I tried this worked, or I tried this, I'm having a challenge with this. Either way, doesn't matter. I'll help you out. Or you can go into the Croc-Brain selling system, and you can post a comment or a question in there, and I'll answer those. I look at those daily. All right. So let's get going on this story piece and talk about how powerful stories are in selling. They're one of my most favorite tools, and I speak in stories all the time. So guys, here's the thing. I traveled all over the world, went to a lot of countries in my previous life in the corporate world, a lot of cultures. And I don't care where you are in the world, people love to share and hear stories. And I think this goes all the way back to prior, written language. If you think about a lot of the primitive people, they pass down traditions and things through stories. And the reason why is because you can remember them. And so that was my big aha. Thank you. We'll miss you too. I'll miss you guys, but I'll be back. Don't worry about it. We're not going to stop this just because I'm going away for a little bit, but I'll be back. But here's the thing, guys. The thing about it is that these stories, I'm going to prove to you tonight just how powerful these things really, really are, and how you can implant a story into someone's mind. And the big aha you're going to have is, now I need to create a story or two that relates to my particular product or service or business opportunity that I can implant in that other person's mind that they're going to remember. And you'll see how powerful this really is. And I'm actually going to give you an exercise. And stay on the whole webinar because you're going to get a freebie, my 12-step formula for free. I'm going to give it to all you guys. I want you to create these stories. These are really, really powerful. And when you create one or two and you get, the first one or two are tough, but after you do it a couple times, it gets really easy. And like now, I just create stories on top of my head on the fly. But again, you don't have to do that. You can start with my template and go from there. So the thing is that with our new understanding in neuroscience, as it applies to selling now, we can better understand why stories are so powerful. Now, really what is happening in the brain, okay, when you go through and you look at what's happening in the brain, stories, remember I talked about the curiosity aspect. Stories create that curiosity in the brain, and that curiosity is very powerful. We talked about this before. Well, why is it? Well, if you think about it, it keeps the skepticism, or what we call the sales filter, down in the croc brain, right? And that is so important, because if you don't first, step number one, get the sales filter to stay down or not go up, or to stay in a neutral mode in the croc brain, you're not going anywhere in selling, because people will get skeptical. And you all have too. I know you have, because you've been skeptical with all of the noise and all the sales gimmicks and all the pushy salespeople and all the fancy schmancy garbage that is out there these days that does not work. It makes us skeptical. Okay, if you want to go back to, if you ever had someone come up to your door and knock on your door and want to sell you something, how skeptical were you? I mean, it's just the same thing. Okay. And most people don't understand, even the big guys. I'm not talking about like big salespeople in the corporate world right now. I'm talking about guys like, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, all these guys. Yes, they innately kind of know how to do sales and things like that. But from a neuroscience standpoint of what's happening in the brain, this is brand new stuff and very, very powerful stuff that you're getting. So you really want to pay attention to this, okay? And like I told you before, the croc brain is the oldest part of your brain. It's your caveman brain, okay? It's at the base of your skull. It's responsible for our survival, all right? And if you are thinking about, well, how that relates to you, if you ever had somebody come up behind you and yell, boo, right? Especially if it's dark, what do? You jump and you immediately run. I don't care how old you are, you're going to get wheels, okay? So the thing is, that is your croc brain kicking in. That is the oldest part of your brain. That is responsible for fight, flight, and reproduction, or basically the survival of the species. It is the most powerful part of the brain. We know that now through neuroscience. It is the thing that protects us and keeps us here on this earth, okay? So when perceived threats enter the croc brain, by what we hear and experience, it immediately shuts out the threat, and either verbal or physical response results. So in other words, if you are saying something or doing something, or your prospect's croc brain is getting some kind of stimuli or some kind of an experience that is perceived as a survival threat, it immediately is going to go up. It's going to be perceived as a threat, either verbal or physical. And what happens is you're either going to get either a no thanks, I'm not interested, or a physical movement away from that pushy salesperson. And guys, I know, because I've done the same thing. You all have experienced this. You've all had this happen to you, and maybe, like I have too in the past, you've all done this too, and you've had those kind of responses. No thanks, I'm not interested, or the person actually physically wants to run away from you. All right, so again, we've got to stop that kind of behavior. And so going back to tying in with what we're talking about today, stories are so powerful in keeping that sales filter, that skepticism down. I cannot emphasize, if you get good at the storytelling of things, how well you are going to do conversationally in selling, and it's not going to seem like selling at all, okay? Now, stories also attract the ego. See, the ego wants to automatically connect. Now, remember, I've talked about in different calls, there's, the ego, it is your core belief systems. It is when you are a child, you start creating your identity. And there are, what I found are 4 ego filters. There's consistency, appreciation, significance and connection, okay? But connection is very, very powerful. The ego wants to automatically connect with a story and see if it is consistent with what it already knows, with the core belief systems, and how it fits with that prospect's core beliefs, okay? So this is another reason, not only does it keep the sales filter down, but stories also have a direct line connection, a fire line right to that prospect's ego. Okay, that consistency in the ego is familiarity. Okay, see, the thing is, guys, have you ever thought about it this way? If you were constantly in an unfamiliar environment, what does that induce? Stress, right? You cannot, and physiologically, even medical doctors will tell you with the cortisone, that's being dumped in your body, if you are under stress all the time, it is not good for your physical health. So what the ego does is it aligns with things that are consistent or familiar to it, because that does not induce stress. It's not an unfamiliar environment. You're not always, trying to figure out where you are at any given time. Okay, even though the brain is a phenomenally powerful tool, the brain will work to quickly filter and find things that are familiar with your known physical reality. Okay, now that is somewhat limiting, but that's the way our brain works. Okay, so from a story standpoint, in other words, if the story can trigger an associative memory, Dan, it's cortisol. You're right. Not cortisone, cortisol. Thank you, Dan. But cortisol is the bad, that is not something you want, coursing through your veins. It's just not, it's not healthy, okay? And stress does that. So from a story standpoint, if the story can trigger an associative memory tied with emotion, remember, first of all, you got to keep that sales filter of skepticism down in the croc brain. Once you start telling the story, and I had this happen on the Difference Makers call this last Tuesday. There's a lady named Jade. I'm going to tell you about that story. I don't know if Jade is on here tonight or not, but very interesting. You have powerfully entered the reward circuit of the brain in the limbic system. I also call that the buying brain, okay, the buying part of the brain. When you are in there and you are tying in your story with an associative memory and implanting the story as a new memory with emotion, you are now part of that reward circuit. You are now dumping. Remember I talked in 3 or 4 weeks ago about the dopamine or glutamate. You are now dumping the dopamine, hopefully, into the brain that goes over to the nucleus accumbens. And again, I bring this up, guys, because the more you hear it, the more you understand it. The more you understand it, the more you become a master of this, the more you can use it in your selling methodologies, because this stuff just flat out works, because we're dealing with the science of the brain. All right. So now what you can do is tie your story, okay, product or service, to that associative memory with the key lesson of your story. And you're going to see in the exercise here, you're going to remember this story that I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to test you with there's like 15 to 17 questions. You're going to see how many things in the story you remember, and you're going to only have heard it from me the very first time. And I'm going to ask you to comment in the chat box about how well you did. It's going to blow you away to see exactly, when we hear stories, how much, even the very first time, how much we remember of it. So then you got to ask yourself, well, why isn't everybody telling stories? Teachers should be telling stories to their students. College professors should be telling stories. Well, it's starting to catch on, and the learning modality through stories is very, very powerful. And more teachers are using stories as a way to get their points across to their students. All right. So to recap here now, just before we go into the next section here, here's what stories do. Number one, we talked about keeping the sales filter down, or that skepticism down, in the crocodile brain. Number two, you're connecting with the ego, okay? So that connection and consistency and familiarity, okay? Now you can use the other filters in your stories of appreciation, okay, or significance, depending on who you're talking to, okay? And we'll go back to some of the DISC profile and the personality types and things like that. But I hope you're starting to see how powerful what's going on with these stories and how you can use them. And even if you didn't understand what personality type they were, if you're just telling a story, you're going to see how people remember what you tell them. Okay, so one of the most powerful devices. Number three, stories draw on associative memories and connect with emotion. Okay, and so you're going to see how powerfully that can work. And when you are telling stories, people are going to be bringing up in their limbic system memories and experiences and emotions they've had as it relates to the story you're telling. Okay, and number four, very powerful, you are now accessing the reward circuit, or what I call the buying part of the brain, okay, through this story, especially if you are having a really good lesson to the story, okay, and you've carefully crafted that. That lesson is what is your connection to your product, service, or business opportunity. Okay, so I hope you're understanding that piece of it too, that lesson of the story. And we're going to go through a little a formula, that the formula I use, my 12-step formula, so you can see how you do that. Okay, so here's the power of stories. If I could, boil it down, I was thinking about this for you guys and saying, okay, how do I really get this across to everybody that's listening here? And how we're, as far as how we tell stories and what they really do. So stories create instant implanted memories tied with emotion. Okay, and you're going to see how powerful this really is. I'm going to tell you a story and watch what happens and what you remember and the emotions that you tie to it. Okay, so that's number one. Okay, number two, those stories you can connect with your product, service, or business opportunity. So I hope you're seeing that is that bridge. That is the bridge builder to what you have to offer, and what is important to them can be done through storytelling. Okay, now the next thing is stories show you how powerful stories can be. I'm going to do a test right now live on this webinar. Like I said, I did it for the first time this last Tuesday. I hadn't tried this before, but I want to show you exactly how powerful stories really are, because I'm going to tell you a story, and you're going to be able to just listen. I just want you to sit back and relax and listen. So in other words, if you got your phone on, turn it off. If you got the TV on, turn it off. If you got someone talking to you in the background, just go to a quiet place where you can really listen to the story, because you got to listen to it without distractions. So this is a situation where you're talking with a prospect or a group of people, either one-on-one or in a small group setting, and you're going to be telling them stories. Okay, so it's a 3-minute story, and it's about the sailing boat and the fisherman. Okay, so that I don't even have a title for it, but I call it the sailing boat and the fisherman. All right, and I want to stress upon you guys just how powerful this concept really is. Remember when I talked about the average attention span? And the National Institute of Biotechnology shared in a 2013 report, the average person has an attention span of 8 seconds. Okay, that wasn't me making that up. That was the National Institute of Biotechnology. They do a lot of studies. If you want to go check them out, just Google them. But basically, they said 8 seconds, and goldfish have an attention span of 9 seconds. Okay, so I hope you get the picture there. We're not doing as well as the goldfish are. Okay, and a lot of that is due to our technology and bits and bytes and all the stuff that's coming at us these days. However, the thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to tell you a 3-minute story that is 22 times longer than your average attention span. Okay, and you're going to remember a lot of it, and it's because of what the story does and how it enters the limbic system and the reward circuit. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to just sit back. I want you to listen to this story. Don't take notes. Okay, I'm going to ask you some questions, but this is based on your ability to listen and recall. So don't take notes, just listen. Okay, after that, I'm going to ask you about 15 questions. Okay, and in your mind, okay, see if you can answer the questions by remembering parts of the story. Okay, all right, so I want you to listen, just, listen actively. And then I'm going to ask, after the story's over, I'm going to ask you about 15 questions. And you're just going to check in your mind if you can remember and recall pieces of the story, okay? And then I'm going to ask you to respond in the chat group by letting us know how many answers you got correct, okay? And again, so, a lot of you guys, I see we've got a lot of people on here. A lot of you guys have been repeat webinar attendees, and so I hope you'll share with how many you got correct, just so we can kind of, we can all kind of laugh about it and go, wow, this really, really works, okay? Now, if you don't recall a lot, well, that's okay too. There is no right or wrong in this. I just want to show you, for the most part, most of the people here, unless this messes up, most of the people here, you're going to remember this story. If you listen to it, you took out the distractions, you're going to recall a lot of this story, and it's going to show you just how powerful. And then I'll tell you about the lady named Jada and what happened in the Difference Makers call, and when she got on the line and recounted the sailing boat and the fisherman story as it related to a real life experience she had. It was really kind of uncanny, but very, very powerful. Okay, so let's see how well you do at remembering the story. So here we go. I'm going to tell you the story. All right, you guys all ready? If you're ready, go ahead and type in yes in the chat box. Let's see if we got everybody ready to go here. All right, do we have people out there? Type yes in the chat box if you are ready to hear the story. Just want to make sure we got people out there that are listening actively into this webinar. Okay, great. We got a bunch of people that are starting to, it's coming in. Okay, there might be a delay time. Awesome. Okay, good. It's pouring in now. So Webinar Jam, I guess, has got a little bit of a delay, but we got a ton of people now. Man, it's hitting. So thank you guys. I appreciate that. Okay, so here we go. We're going to listen to the story here. So just put your listening ears on, and I'm going to tell you the story about the sailboat and the fisherman. So here's the way the story goes. There was a young family man in his early 30s who was a very successful stockbroker on Wall Street. He had a wife and 2 young children, and he and his family would often travel down to Biscayne Bay for rest and relaxation. Now, one year, the young man decides to buy a large sailboat to take his family out on excursions, even though he had little training as a sailor. The next day after the purchase of the boat, the man and his family plan a day-long outing on their new boat. They get up that next morning, all excited to be out on the sailboat in the beautiful turquoise waters of Biscayne Bay. And even though the man has little experience as a sailor, he scoffs at the idea that he isn't capable of handling the new sailboat. So he goes out alone with his family. They head out that morning on a nice high tide, past all other boats in the harbor, and everyone waves at the man and his family as they go by in their beautiful new sailboat. The day is gorgeous with sun warming their bodies and the wind in their hair. The whole family is having a wonderful time, and the man is happy and thinks to himself how successful he is and what a wonderful boat he has bought for his family. Now it's getting later in the afternoon, and the man decides it's time to start heading back to the harbor when crash! Everything comes to a halt and the boat stops moving. Slight fear sets in as the man looks around and realizes his keel has hit a sandbar and the tide has gone out. He starts his engines in the sailboat and revs them hard, trying to release the boat's keel from the sandbar, but the boat only gets lodged deeper into the sand. The man is now frantic as he feels the beads of sweat running down his temples as his mind races to think of a way out. His children tell him, "Daddy, we're cold and we want to go home." The air is cooling off and the sun is starting to set off on the western horizon, and chills run down his back. As they all start yelling for help, they spot a large cigar boat off in the distance and yell louder to attract the man's attention. He sees them and comes over in his large racing boat with overpowering engines. The young man pleads with the driver of the cigar boat for help, and he agrees to give them a tow. The cigar boat captain ties a large rope on the bow of the sailboat and to his own boat. He revs the engine, and the sailboat moves, but not that much. The rope is tight and getting tighter, but that doesn't stop the cigar boat captain as he revs his engine harder, and finally, snap! The rope explodes and breaks free from the sailboat. It almost hits and kills the cigar boat captain. The captain is shaken, coming inches from his own life being over, and he tells the young man there's nothing more he can do to help, and wishes him well and drives off. The young man is now panic-stricken as the sun is almost set and the air is getting cold, and they have no more clothes than the shorts and shirts on their back. His children are shivering, being held by their mother. The man starts yelling out for help again and again and again. Off in the distance, he sees an old fishing boat, so he screams and waves his arms and finally gets the attention of the fisherman. The fisherman boat comes over to the sailboat, and it's an old and grizzly fishing captain on his boat coming home from the day's run of fishing. The young man calls out to the old fisherman, "Can you please help us get free? My boat is stuck on a sandbar. My children are freezing and my wife is in tears. I'll give you anything if you can get us free. How about $50,000? The old and grizzly fisherman looks at the man and slowly says, "I'll do it for 50." The young man in his cockiness thinks, "Wow, what a bargain. I don't mind taking advantage of this old fisherman if he's going to let me do it." And he quickly agrees to paying him the $50. So the old fisherman adeptly maneuvers his boat to the stern of the sailboat, jumps onto the sailboat with a rope in hand, and quickly starts climbing up the main mast. The young man incredulously asks the old fisherman, "What are you doing?" The old fisherman doesn't reply, but keeps on climbing to the top of the mast and swiftly ties on the rope. After that, he chinnies down quickly and jumps back into the old fishing boat and ties off the rope to his stern. He starts up the engines and revs them hard and starts moving away from the sailboat, and the rope becomes very taut. He keeps going, and the main mast starts to bend. Then more and more, until the young man yells out to the fisherman, "What are you doing? You're going to break my mast, and you'll owe me a lot of money to get that repaired." Just when it looks like the mast can't take any more, the young man and his family hear a loud pop, and in fear, the young man jumps for cover, only to realize his brand new sailboat is floating freely in the now cool waters of the Biscayne Bay. He's thrilled but immediately his business sense takes over as the old fisherman and his boat draw closer to gather the rope. The old fisherman says, "That'll be $50. The young man says, $50? That seems quite a bit to pay, as it only took you less than 5 minutes to free my boat. Seems kind of high for the little bit you did." The old fisherman peers into the young man's eyes and slowly says, "It's $5 for the doing and $45 for the knowing." Now, that is the story of the sailboat in The Old Fisherman. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Now that you've listened to this, Gary says, "I think it's the cigar boat." That's good. All right, what I want you to do now is I want you to sit back, and I'm going to ask you some questions, okay? And I want to see if you can, if this, again, this is just you sitting there. You don't have to write it down on paper, but just see if you can clearly recall the answer to these different questions. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to go ahead and post. Well, I have 17 questions here. How many of the 17 you got right? Here's what I want you to do. If you do have a pen and paper, if you get one right, just mark it down on a piece of paper, just a hash mark, just one mark. I got it right. If you didn't, don't mark a hash mark. So how many out of 17 did you get right? All right. So here go the questions. This is your test to see if you remember parts of the difference of the story on the sailboat and the fisherman. Number 1, what was the approximate age of the young man? Okay, see if, again, just if you can recall that in the story, it was at the beginning, the approximate age of the young man. Number 2, did he have a family? And even you can go, what did he have for a family? How many kids? And did he have, obviously had a wife. Okay, so that's number 2. Did he have a family? Number 3, where did they go regularly on vacation? What was the name of the place? Okay. Number 4, what did he buy down there? Okay. Number 5, what kind of tide did they head out on? Okay. Number 6, what happens to the sailboat in the afternoon? Okay. Number 7, how is the man feeling when the boat gets stuck in the sandbar? Okay, see if you can recall what happened in the story, how he was feeling. Okay. Number 8, what type of boat arrives first on the scene? Okay. Number 9. Okay, now that you answered that, what happens to the rope on the cigar boat? Number 10, after the rope does what it does, what happens to the cigar boat? Number 11, who comes along next? Number 12, how much money does the young man initially offer to the fisherman? How much money does he initially offer to the fisherman? Number 13, how much money does the old fisherman ask for? Number 14, once they agree upon a price, what does the old fisherman climb on the sailboat? Number 15, how does the old fisherman free the boat? Number 16, what does the young man say when the fisherman says, that'll be 50 bucks? And number 17, in your last question, what does the fisherman say to the young man about the 50 bucks? What was the lesson of the story, the last line? What does the fisherman say to the young man about the 50 bucks? All right, now here's what I want you to do, because we're in chat and I hope you're willing to share. We've got a lot of people on here. That was 17 questions. So all I want you to do is go into chat and type in, if you got 17 out of 17, just say I got 17 right, I got 16 right, I got 15 right, I got 14 right. Whatever number you got right out of the 17 questions, would you please volunteer that in the chat group so that we can see and I can show you how powerful these stories are. So go ahead right now. I know there'll be a little bit of a delay because we had it with the yes, but type in the number of questions that you remembered from the story out of the 17 I just asked you. Okay, so if you got all 17, just say I got 17 right. Okay, so go ahead and do that right now in the chat box. Type in how many you got right in your mind that you remembered from the story. So I'll wait for you guys to go ahead and type in your responses there. So we got some coming in. I'll keep waiting. Carrie, you're so funny. I love that one. Yeah, if you guys are drinking alcohol, that's not going to help us much, but that's okay. It's all cool. I'm gonna have a martini after this, so I'm a martini man. All right, we got people coming in. I'm just gonna wait for a couple more seconds. You guys go ahead and put your answers in there, and okay, till we stop. But it's Eddie. That's good. Are you guys? But you guys must have manipulated teachers when you were in school when you were younger. I love that. That's awesome. All right, people are still we're still getting a whole bunch of people pouring in here on answers, but I'll kind of, since nobody did this privately, it's cool. I'm assuming that you're all okay. So I'm just leaving you on the honor system. Ann says, Bud Seti, you're funny. Yeah, they are. I love Bud Seti. They're great people. All right. But guys, we got all kinds of people out here tonight. Okay, so let's go now. I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to kind of read through, guys, just to give you an idea. I think you can see these because they're all public. But we got, and I thank you, everybody, for sharing. We got Nancy with 16, Colleen with 16, Alan 17, Dan 17, Chris 15, Robin 17, Kia 17, Jacinta in Spain 16, Debbie got 15, Ivan 17, Roger 16, Orica 15, Carrie got 13, but I'm drinking a margarita. I love that. That's pretty funny, Carrie. Lorraine 17, John is 17, Catherine 17, Deborah 17, Ann, I'm sorry, Deborah 15, Ann 17, Catherine 17, John 15, Jan 17, Dean 16, Willard 15, Bruce 14, Renee 14, Chris 14, Denise 9, Rebecca 17, Kathy 14, Jim 17, Gwen 14. Carrie says my hubby Kev got 17. He must not be drinking the margaritas then, Carrie, huh? Ernestine 14. She heard the story before. Steve 17, Elizabeth 14. So that's the people that volunteered and shared tonight. But guys, here's the thing. I want you to understand, if you see the power of this, and again, if you look at just as kind of a bell-shaped curve, the majority of you got, you know, 80% or more of the story correct. Now think about that. Think about how powerful that is. And a lot of you guys got 17 out of 17, and you only heard the story, I'm assuming, once or twice. So and again, if you got 14 or 15, you still got 80% of the story correct from hearing it just the first time. And that's a pretty long story, guys. I did that because I wanted you to understand the power of this. I don't expect you to, tell that long a story, but I wanted to prove my point about how powerful those are. And by hearing it once or twice, what that does, how it's implanted into your limbic system and the associative memories, and how powerful this is. Okay, so we're going to keep moving on. Thank you guys, everybody, for sharing. I really, really appreciate it. So we're going to move into now the next part, which is actually you crafting your own stories, and then the 12-step formula template that I'm going to give you at the very end, and how to get that, okay, if you don't have it already. Okay, so the thing is, guys, crafting your stories, it's going to take hard work, creativity, and persistence. But if you stick with the process and don't give up, look what happens. When you tell people a story with a lesson that is connected to your product, service, or business opportunity, look at what is going to happen. They're going to remember the story, even if they don't remember you all that well. They're going to remember that story. And if you see them the next time, go, hey, you remember I told you that story about the sailboat and the fisherman? They go, oh, yeah, I remember it. Yeah, it was a really great story. I remember you. You see, the thing is, it's tied with it's tied in their memory forever, and they will remember it because you told them a story. You kept the sales filter down. It got directly into the limbic system and the reward circuit. Now, I'm going to tell you a quick story before we move into the template about a lady named Jada who was on the Difference Makers call last Tuesday. She got on after I told the story, and a lot of people, were recounting. I had a test with one person, and she got 16 out of 17, just like you guys. I mean, for the most part, most of you guys, you did awesome. Okay. And I'm telling you, it doesn't, the amount you got correct, even if, here's the thing, out of 17 questions, even if you got 50% of it right, guys, that's 50% of the story you remembered. That's pretty incredible given all of the messages and garbage and crap we see on TV and radio, that they have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to get you to remember. Guess what? You don't have to spend nothing. You can tell one story and have that kind of power with the story. So you can build a brand by telling a story. You can sell things by telling a story. You can create interest with your prospects by telling a story. That's all you have to do. Okay? So I'm going to tell you about Jada. So Jada gets on when we had the Q&A. Jada is on the phone. She goes, Peter, and you're not going to believe this. She goes, I had an experience very similar to the sailboat and the fisherman, but it was out on a lake, and we were stuck out on a little fishing boat, and we couldn't get in. And she said, as you were telling the story, she goes, I started recounting vividly in my brain all the commotion that was going on, and the screaming, and the people that were crying, and how I felt, and it was like unbelievable and uncanny. She goes, this is just amazing. And I said, there you go. Do you see, guys? It was tied with an associative memory that she had, very emotionally charged. I got right into her limbic system and her reward circuit, and it probably dumped a lot of glutamate, which is the pain part, the fear part, because she said, I felt fearful, all that kind of stuff. So, guys, you see, if you connect with people, not only are they going to remember it because you implanted it in the limbic system, but if they have some kind of an associative memory with emotion, they're going to be reliving a experience as it relates to what you just told. And if you have a good lesson or moral to the story. Now, I use this in my consulting because when people go, well, you charge by the hour, and I go, let me tell you this story about the sailboat captain and the fisherman, because it's not about the amount I charge, it's what I know, and that's what I charge based on what I know. And now you guys can do the same thing. Doesn't matter what kind of business you're in. It's about the knowing, not the doing, right? So you can modify this story for your own particular business, or you can create your own different one. But I wanted to show you in vivid color and vivid words how powerful, just how powerful that really, really is. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through, and I'm going to show you this 12-step process that I use, my 12-step formula for creating any kind of story you can use in your sales process. So you can see, and you can do it for yourself, okay? And I'm going to give you this free template. Just stay on at the end so you can see how you get it. So you could create a story or two. And remember, go through it, push through, be persistent, create it. And if after you create the story, I'll tell you what, you guys that are listening in here, because you're live on the webinar, if you want to, and I know who you are, versus replay people, if you want to send me, hey, here's my story, hey Peter, could you take a look at it? I'll do that free of charge. I'll read your story, because I love reading different people's stories. It's also great. I can get a swipe file of stuff, but I'll give it a look and say, yeah, it looks good, or this is what I would change, or whatever. Okay, that's all free of charge. All right. Okay, so let's get cracking here and get your first story written that you can tell your prospects. Okay, so first off, there's several different types of stories you can tell. Now, if you guys are part of the Croc Brain selling system, in there I talk about different stories. It's one of in the sales laws. I talk about the hero's journey. I talk about Star Wars with Luke, on planet Tatooine, getting burned off the planet. These are all different kinds of stories, and I talk about that in there in a lot of detail, okay? But there's different kinds of stories you can tell. You can tell a story with a character in it. You can tell a story where you put someone in an environment. You can tell a hero's journey story like uh, Star Wars. You can do a rags to riches story, a rebirth, a journey and return. You can do a nature story, a fear and salvation story, a metaphor. I've talked about metaphor stories on price, value, and trust. Okay, so those are really good stories, especially you guys in King and Water that are listening in here. You can do that. You can do hey, here's the underdog and the big beast, David and Goliath type story, and how the underdog wins. You can tell a tragedy comedy story or a stranger comes to town type story and what happens there. Those are all very powerful. And by the way, if you follow movies and read books and all that kind of stuff, these are all different types of stories that are crafted throughout movies and books. Okay, so you just going to pick the one that you want to use based on your product, service, or business opportunity. So step 1 is, of the 12-step formula, choose the type of story you'd like to create. Step 2, just write down, and again, this is all going to be in your template, so you could just listening now. You don't have to quickly write all this stuff down. This is not the work exercise now. You can do that later. But step 2, what is the name of the main character in your story? Step 3, what you want to do is you want to explain what the main character in your story initially sets out to do. Okay, so what is it what's their journey? What's their challenge? What's their nemesis? What's their health condition? What is it that they've got to set out to do? Okay, step 4, you got to determine what the story appeals to as far as the senses. Okay, this is very, very important, because if you remember in my story, I didn't ask you this question about, remember, it was sunny, their bodies were warm, the wind was blowing in their hair. I could have put, they smelled the salty waters of the Biscayne Bay. But you can paint the pictures to the senses, because why do we do that? Because that brings up associative memories in the limbic system. So you want to go at, okay, well, does it appeal to sight, smell, sound, taste, and touch, or all of them, or check all that apply based on the story that you have in mind that you want to create. Step 5, then, for each of those senses that are checked, you want to write a descriptive sentence or two, including the senses that you chose. That would become part of your story. Because why are we doing that? Because those go directly into the limbic system with associative memories. Okay, so again, you can create a very powerful story that appeals to different senses with that character in the story. Okay, and again, these don't have to be opus. This is a really long one, the sailboat and the sailor at 3 minutes. You can do a 1-minute story. Just make it brief, but get the point across, because they're going to remember it. Whatever you tell them, they're going to remember. All right. Step 6: explain the driving circumstance that changes what the character sets out to do, and how he or she initially responds to that change. Remember, for some of you guys in the Croc Brain system, I talked about how Luke was on, I think it was Planet Tatooine. I might be wrong. You guys that are Star Wars fans, you know better than I do. But remember, in Star Wars, initially, right, he was out there, and Obi-Wan Kenobi came to him, and he says, Luke, we got to leave the planet. You got to, come on a mission, all that kind of stuff. And he says, no, right? So then what happens? And the bad guys, right, Darth Vader and all his buddies come down to the planet, and they kill his aunt and uncle, and they burn their village, and he has to go. So now he's responding by, okay, then Obi-Wan Kenobi shows up again, right, and he says, okay, you're gonna go to whatever, I can't remember the star system, but he goes to meet Yoda in the swamp. You guys remember if you watch the Star Wars movies, right? And that's where he starts his training, right? So that's the whole thing. Luke, here's the thing. What's the guy's name that created that? If you guys can remember, you can put it in the chat box. But anyway, you know what? There's a guy named gosh darn it, I'm forgetting different names. But there's a guy that created the hero's journey that I love, and if I remember it, I'll bring it back up. But he was incredible at telling. He had studied all the mythological characters across time. And basically, he had come up with the whole hero's journey aspect. And I talk about the hero's journey in the Croc Brain selling system, and how that, as it relates to people, don't want to go into businesses with other people because it's fear of the unknown. You've got to bring them from known to unknown. George Lucas, there you go. Thank you, Carrie. And you're even having margaritas. You remembered over me. So George Lucas, yeah. So George Lucas actually borrowed that hero's journey from gosh dang it, I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I'll think of it. Curious says drink more water. Yeah, but he borrowed the hero's journey from this other fella that wrote this. This was not George Lucas's initial idea. In fact, George Lucas himself, if you go on to do some study about George Lucas admits that his Star Wars would have been a failure if he had not found the hero's journey aspect. Okay, so again, the circumstances and what they're trying to do in step 6 is really important to think through. All right, step 7. What is the main lesson of the story? Now, in the sailboat and the fisherman, the main lesson of the story was what? That it's about what you know. It's not about what you do. In fact, your knowledge is your power. Your intellectual property is your power. What you know how to do. This is why you guys all hang out with me here, because it's like you're learning. You want to learn, because I spent my life, well, a good part of my life, as far as building businesses and selling and learning these different things. And then I went off into the world of neuroscience, and that's why you guys are hanging out, because you want to learn some of this new stuff of, well, how do I become a better salesperson without having to be a sales master, right? You don't have to be like Yoda. You can do this kind of stuff yourself. You just need to know what to say and what to do. Okay. Step 8. What is the key phrase line that you want the prospect to remember? What was my phrase line? Right? The $50. He goes, that'll be $50, right? $5 for the doing, $45 for the knowing. Okay. So that was the key phrase that I wanted the prospect to remember. Okay. And I'm sure pretty much all of you probably got that, and that was important. Step 9. You want to craft your first paragraph of the story introducing the main character and supporting characters and what they set out to do. Okay, so if you remember the story, right, main character was a young man. I even give him a name. I just a young man, had a wife and 2 kids. What did they set out to do? They buy a sailboat. They're going to go sailing, right? That's what they set out to do, and then this bad stuff happened. They got, stranded on a sandbar and all that kind of stuff. Step 10, craft the second paragraph of how a change in circumstances are injected into his or her situation and the reaction to that new situation. So remember in the sailboat and the fisherman, what happened? They went out there, the tide went down, the guy was inexperienced, he rammed his keel of the sailboat into the sandbar and got stuck. That changed the circumstances, right? And their reaction is he's starting to get panic-stricken. He doesn't know what to do because he can't get the boat out. Okay, so again, that's my step 10. Okay, and by the way, when you get this free report I'm going to send you, I identify each of the steps in the story that I just told you, so you can get a real live understanding of each particular step that I crafted in there. Step 11, craft the final paragraph of his or her journey and return, and how that's affected him or her and his supporting characters, and reveal the main lesson of the story. Okay, so that would be, that main lesson that they're learning, and, how that comes across to the main character. Okay. Step 12, then you want to craft a call to action that supports the main lesson of the story and how it connects with the prospect. Now, step 12, I have in the sheet I'm going to send you, there is a step 12, so you can see how I do it. In the story, I did not cover step 12 when I read you the story, because that was really not part of that. It was part of you recalling it to prove the point. Okay, but you want to always do a call to action. So whatever you want them to do, basically, which is get at, you want to get at, what's their next step they should take with your product, your service, your business opportunity. That would be your step 12. That craft that call to action. Tell them what to do, because remember, you're implanting it into their limbic system. Okay, so guys, here's what I'm going to do, and then we'll go to Q&A for those that want to stay on, because I know we're getting to the top of the hour. We started at about 8:08. It's about 9:02, so we got about 6 more minutes here. And then you guys want to stay on, we'll go ahead and I'll answer any Q&A that you want. You can put it in the chat. So if you got questions, go ahead and give me a call. Colleen, you are awesome. Colleen, Joseph Campbell, that's the guy. I studied Joseph Campbell since 1984, and I don't know why I couldn't remember him. Look up Joseph Campbell, guys. Joseph Campbell was a phenomenal human being. There's a whole documentary on him, but he's the one that created the hero's journey. I love that guy. I've studied him over the years, actually from a sales standpoint. Very, very powerful. George Lucas met Joseph Campbell, George Lucas attributes the success of Star Wars to Joseph Campbell and understanding the hero's journey. So, Colleen, thank you. I appreciate that. And I did drink more water, and it still didn't come to me, Carrie. So anyway, here's what I'm going to do. I want you to go. I created a website. I don't know if you guys know that this even existed. I launched this about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's really good. It's got a lot of really good stuff on it. I want you to go to this, crocbrain.com. Okay, so write that down. I'll keep it up there for a couple more seconds. Write down crocbrain.com. You want to go to, that's my website. Okay. All right, so now at the very top of my website, crocbrain.com, you're going to see a box. You see the red arrows there? And it says your best sales tool is there, CrocBrain. You see the right arrow? Enter your email there. Not only that, you're going to get the CrocBrain newsletter for free, but when you enter your email, because of tonight, I'll know, because it's going to go into my email system, and I'm going to send you out. What's going to happen is, by entering your email at crocbrain.com, you're going to get the Stories That Sell, my 12-step formula. It's the whole template. It's what, and guys, I use this when I want to create new stories. This same template. I use the same exact one that I'm giving to you. I'm giving you my swipe file of the formula that I use to create my own selling stories. Okay, so but you got to go to crocbrain.com. Remember, that's up here, crocbrain.com, crocbrain.com. You can peruse around my website. There's a lot of really good articles, and you can also, if you join the CrocBrain newsletter, you're going to get news, tips, and tricks. Okay, from me and other top experts in the sales field that I hang out with. There are a bunch of really good guys that have made a lot of money in selling. Okay, but the thing is, you're going to get this 12-step formula. Okay, that is there. So, and you're going to get the monthly CrocBrain Selling Formula newsletter, okay? So, and again, that's all free of charge. I'm not, this is not, I wanted to, I know that I've charged for, some other things, and this week I said, what could we do that would be really good just to add value, just so you could have it. All right, so here's what we're going to do. It's 6:05 or 9:05. You guys now, if you have questions, anything you want to ask as it relates to the stories that sell, and I'll put this back up so you can make sure you get it. It's crocbrain.com. That'll get you over there. Enter, into the box. You'll be good to go. So here's the thing. If you have any questions right now that you want to ask me, and if you don't want your name said publicly on this webinar, then just do a private. If you don't, I'm assuming it's okay that I use your first name, and that's all cool. So we'll do that, and I'll answer questions for a few minutes here because we want to do ongoing coaching. It's very, very important. So if you got a question, type it in. Now's your time to ask the question of me, because I'm not going to be on for the 4th of July weekend, and then I think it's a couple Sundays after that. Because I'm going to go hang out and do some surfing in Costa Rica and things like that, have some fun. So first off, let's see, we got question number 1. Catherine says, does it make a difference that you told us to listen and remember? Well, yes and no. You don't have to do that, because what's happening is automatically, think about it, Catherine, from what I told you, the CrocBrain sales filter is going to stay down because it's curious, right? Curiosity. It wants to hear the story to see if it's a survival threat to it, okay? And by telling the story, you're going to get hooked into the limbic system, in the reward circuit, and you're going to create a new memory, okay? Now, here's what you can do just to prove my point. Tell your story one time and say, hey, I want you to listen and remember this because I'm going to ask you some questions. And then the other time, don't say a thing. Just tell the story. You can do this to your family or friends. You don't have to do this just to prospects, just to prove my point. Create a story. Tell it to one of your good friends. And then don't say a thing to her, Catherine. Then just say, after you're all done, say, hey, I want to ask you about the story. See if you remember it. And then just go ahead and ask her some questions. See if she recalls a good majority of it, 50% or more, okay? All right. Then we have, let's see, Robin, thank you. I'll get to your question in just a second. Jan asked what happened. I don't know what that means, Jan. So, Jan, if you could be more specific about what happened. Are you asking about what happened in the story or what? But be a little more specific, and I can answer that. Dan, hey Dan, you have Jada's story ? So I don't know what that means either. Jada's story. I talked about Jada's story and I recounted it during that. Maybe you were away from your computer. And how uncanny that was, and really tied with associated memory she had with charged emotion. But if there's something I miss in there, Dan, please write back, and I will answer to the best of my ability. Okay, Robin says, Peter, this does work and is even more effective if you are the main character in the story. I use stories in my previous life, and sales always went through the roof, and all the targets were surpassed. Thrilled to be seeing how to apply this to my business now. Thank you for this. You are welcome, Robin. And yes, I agree. Especially if you were trying to, Robin makes a good point. If you're going to be the character in the story, that also builds trust and likability. Because they're going to start identifying with you personally because you are telling the story about yourself, and you are being vulnerable and exposing yourself to that person. And that builds trust, right? Because how can they be skeptical about a person who is being vulnerable to them? Okay, so Robin, I'm not sure. Maybe you can kind of tell me what you did in a previous sales life, but yes, it works awesome. I used to tell stories all the time in my previous businesses. I'm just sharing this with you, and now you got the template of what I used to create those stories. Ann says followed instructions didn't work. Are you talking about on the website, Ann? So yeah, be more specific. If you go to crocbrain.com and just enter the email, and let me know specifically if that didn't work or what didn't work. Maybe and I can help you with that. So go ahead and write me again, Ann. All right, Orca. Let's see. If we are already subscribed to your mailing list, we cannot subscribe again. Could you please send the template at bestbuyforyourself.com. Okay, so maybe that's what Ann was saying too. If you guys are already on the list, I don't know, because we have so many people on this from all over the world. If you're already on the list, maybe Ann, that's your question, Orca. Then, and I know your email address, Orca, so you are on the list, and that crocbrain.com, that website, which is this thing here. If you enter that and it didn't work, then you're already on the list. Maybe it says you've already joined the list. Maybe, Ann, that was what you're talking about. So you'll get it. I'm gonna send that out to everybody on the list, the free storytelling template. So you'll get it, okay? Which is cool. All right, let's go. Let's see. We'll go to Catherine says that's great. Thanks. Well, you're welcome, Catherine. And we were talking about the differences. Yeah, so you can just experiment with it, Catherine. Have fun with it. That's the whole thing, and use it on people you know. Stories work with anybody. All right, Colleen. Let's see. Is there a way to create a king and demo? So Colleen's in king and water or Enagic. King and demo wrapped around stories where you're adding both informative and personal information. Colleen, the answer is yes, yes, and yes, because I don't do a demo like everybody else does. All I do is I sprinkle in facts, but I tell about 4 or 5 stories, and then I go to the actual live demo, and it is powerful. Now, remember what I talked about in previous ones. I like to do a lot of in-home demos, Colleen, with a couple where I can ask them first of all, why are they there, all those kinds of things, what they treasure, to turn them into a prospect. Remember I talked about that. Otherwise you're dealing with a possibility. But if you're in a group setting and you have a bunch of possibilities and they're not quite prospects yet, and it's hard to do that in a group setting, I would revamp your whole demo to telling a bunch of stories instead of puking up all over them with scare tactics and facts. They're going to remember it more. If you don't believe me, Colleen, you can do a test. What you can do is do it the way you're doing it now, and ask them to stay after and ask them a series of questions, maybe 6 to 8, about what they recalled, and see how much they recall, and then do one with stories and ask them questions and see how much they recall, and prove it to yourself. Prove just what I proved to you tonight, that they're going to remember more of what you said because you put it in a story format. And I almost guarantee you that that's going to be true. Okay, so I hope that answered, Colleen, your question. Okay, this one's private. Okay, yeah, I know, man. I'm sorry, brother. There's a guy here from Hawaii. He says, "Tell me your Hawaiian brain, brah." I used to live up on North Shore, Oahu, in Kahuku, and so yeah, you're a good brother, and I appreciate you being on here all the time. I miss Hawaii. I'm gonna get back there one of these days and get a place and go hang out there with my girlfriend Patricia part of the year. So. I got you now, though. I got your name pronounced, so I'll get it right the next time. Sorry about that, man. All right, we could talk pigeon together when I get out to the island. All right, Ann did not get the template. Okay, so Ann, you didn't get the template. All right, yeah, but here's the thing, Ann. Okay, now I entered. Okay, you entered the email, and you're not gonna. Okay, so Ann, I understand what you're saying. You will. I'm gonna. What I'm gonna do is tomorrow morning, I'm going to send everybody out the template. So if you enter the email address, it doesn't kick you into like a thank you page of the download. Just enter the email. If you've already entered the email, it will tell you that you're already on the list. And either way, don't worry about it, because I'm sending it out tomorrow morning first thing. I'm not going to do it tonight because it's martini time after this. But I'm going to send it out to everybody. So, Ann, you'll get it at my time around 7:30, 8 o'clock, which I think you're on the East Coast. It'll be 10:30, 11 o'clock. But you'll get it tomorrow morning first thing. So I hope that answers your question. All right. Okay, so Robin writes back, and it's public. So she wrote, tour director and luxury cruise ships. Oh, man, that sounds good. Selling tours and creating private arrangements. Yeah, stories work like awesome there. Especially painting the pictures of all the tropical places you could be and how that feels to be in the sun and the warm and the partying, and yeah, and especially with pricing and stuff, man. You tell them stories like that. I don't know which ship I used to go on cruise ships. Not I didn't work on them, but I love going on cruise ships for just relaxing vacations. And boy, you can create some powerful stuff. Okay, Ann says, okay, got it. Orca, thanks. I am on your list from last week. Good, awesome. And then Carrie writes, oh my gosh, Peter, this stuff is a total game changer. Yeah, well, Carrie, thank you. I'm glad. And Carrie, here's the thing. Go out and compete with your husband, Kevin. I'll send you the template first so you can beat him in his own game. So just so you so you got that. But I'll tell you guys, it is a game changer. If you get good at this, and you're going to be very good at being a masterful salesperson, because I don't care if you've read the greats like Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Dan Kennedy, all these guys, they're storytellers. That's what they do. I know Brian Tracy, and they're storytellers. And so you get good at telling stories, you're going to be up there with the greats, all-time greats. Okay. Colleen says, thank you. You are welcome, Colleen. Okay. Okay, so Bud and Sandy, you kept it. You went public here on this one. So you said we aren't supposed to tell testimonials or testimonies. Could you give a short story sample for a product? Let's see, off the top of my head. You guys are with King and Water. So what I would do is I would do something around telling a story. I know you're getting at, well, someone has a health condition. I would do something a little different, Bud and Sandy. I don't know if you've seen Michelle Raley, because I know she's in the business too here with all of us, but she's which I've said all along here, go after business builders. So Bud and Sandy, what I would do is I'd craft a story around business builders, about being poor in money or poor in time, and why this business can change your life financially, and tell a story doing that. And then you get off of this end consumer and telling testimonies on people that were cured that we can't do, by American Medical Association. So do it around a business builder. Use my template for a business builder and go try it out. That's what I'd suggest, Bud. And Sandy, again, if you want, after you create yours, you guys, if you want to send it to me, at crocbrand@gmail.com, I'll take a look at it and give you some feedback. All right, this one's private. let's see. So this one, just so you guys, you can't see it, but I'm going to read it. I'm not going to say the person's name, just so you can hear, because there might be something here you might want to learn from. Thank you for the 12-step formula, Peter. On a separate note, I want to approach the football coach at the university where I work. I'd like to suggest that his team try the water and mention they are professional football players drinking the water. Maybe a story would work here. How would you introduce yourself? Well, here's the thing. I would craft and because guys, because I was a baseball player. I didn't play Major League Baseball. I played college baseball, but I coached for many years, and I know a lot of Major League Baseball players just because they came from our organization. So, and these guys are using it. I know a couple of my personal buddies that are playing Major League Baseball. They're drinking Kangen water. So, but football side of things, yes. What I would do is craft a story and do a little research on Google on the different football teams that are using it in professional football. It's out there. I would also get Jerry Costica's Hardcore Hydration. Get a couple copies of that. It's not going to be expensive. And you can use some information from that too. In that, Shan Stratton, who's one of the premier figures in the health and athletic space. He talks in the Hardcore Hydration magazine that Jerry's got, and you're gonna where you want to go on that one. You want to get that Hardcore Hydration. Jerry's a good buddy of mine. You want to go to Kangen One, the number one. So it's KANGEN, the number one info.com, and he's got it up there. He might even be having a July sale, 4th of July sale coming up. You might be able to get a good deal on it, but it's KangenOneInfo.com. Get that. Jerry's got a good. I use that thing when I talk to athletes and different people. And Ann says, thank you for tomorrow morning. No worries. My good Hawaiian brother said, big mahalos, Peter, for all you do for us. Well, you are very welcome, and mahalo back to you. All right. Carrie says, love it. Let's see. Carrie says, yep, all the greats are great storytellers. Yes, they are. We have to be good BSers, guys, if we're good in sales. So just so you know. but you're seeing the power of this now. Okay. So Beverly says, how do I request the info? I came on late. So Beverly, just to go back quickly here, so in case you guys missed it, Beverly, you want to go to this right here, crocbrain.com. That's my website. In fact, you guys should hang out there for a little while. Go to crocbrain.com, crocbrain.com. And then, Beverly, you're going to see my screen that looks like this. You'll see the header up there, but on every page, it has this little sign-up box over here. It says your best sales tool is there, CrocBrain. You can join the newsletter, so you put your email in there, and you will get the 12-step formula tomorrow morning. I'm going to send that out, and we'll make that happen. All right. So Beverly, hopefully that answered it for you. You're going to get the 12-step formula. You're going to get the free newsletter. You just got to enter. If you're already on my list, it'll tell you you're already on there. You're going to get it anyway tomorrow. So the private person said thank you, as it related to the football coach. I hope that helped, and great ideas. Well, hey, we all hang together and make our businesses grow, and that's really what it's all about. So I'm really happy. I'm going to give you guys another 30 seconds. If there's any other questions, make sure some of you guys are sending them to me on email, but send them in the chat box right now, so that I can answer the question with everybody on here. And we'll go for like another 15 seconds. And if you guys are all tuckered out and want to go to bed, I guess, well, for some of you it's 9:22. I don't know if you guys are early to bed people or not, but just want to make sure that I get everybody's questions answered for tonight, because remember, I won't be on for, let me check the calendar here really quickly. So yeah, so let's see, July 6th, no. Let's see. So July 6th and July 13th and maybe July 20th, because I don't get back till the end of like the 19th. So yeah, so the 27th of July will be the next one we have. So it's going to be 3 weeks, guys. So if you got any other questions, make sure you ask them now. I'll give you about another give you another couple secs here, otherwise we are going to be gone. So for all you guys that have been on these webinars and all the new people, yeah, you're welcome, Colleen. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for learning. Remember, guys, the key thing is get your homework for this week is you're going to get that thing tomorrow morning, my 12-step formula. Write your first story this week. Don't wait, because tomorrow never comes. You'll never get it done. So don't procrastinate. Get it done this week. And then if you want, over the 4th of July weekend, try your story. Have fun with it. Do your test. If you're going to go to a July 4th barbecue or a bash or fireworks, if you're in the States or wherever you are in the world, because we've got people all over the place here, try your story out on someone this weekend, one of your family or friends. Just tell them the story. Don't tell them you're going to ask them to do a test. Just say, hey, I got a story I want to share with you. You want to hear it? And what do you think they're going to say? Yeah, sure. Then tell them the story, and then after that, go, I want to ask you some questions, see if you recall the story, because I did a little bit of a marketing test here, okay? So, and basically test it out for yourself, but get your story done, this week. All right, let's see. Last thing. Jim, you're awesome, dude. Renee beat me to her Sunday night libation. I'm gonna go do that right now. It's martini time. Catherine says how to request the links to the previous webinars. Catherine, and all of you guys, if you send me an email, crocbrain, CROCBRAIN @gmail.com, and just send me an email saying, hey, I'd like the previous webinars. I got a pre-canned email I can send to you that has all of them in there for the replays. So I'll give it to you. Catherine, thank you, Catherine. I am going to enjoy my holiday. Let's see. So hold on. We have another question. How do I find the webinar replays? So Bud and Sandy, just go ahead, crocbrain@gmail.com. I'll send them all to you. So you got them all, the whole library. We've done, 7 or 8 weeks of this stuff so far, plus all the supporting materials, not only just the CrocBrain selling formula system, but we got the Tripwire. We've got the other quick start cheat sheets. We've got all that kind of stuff that you guys could, it's all in there. If you want to, get them, you can get them. If you don't, you don't. That's your choice. You make your choices on how you want to build your biz. So Bud and Sandy, I hope that helps you there. Anna says, why is a story different than a testimonial with Kangen-Water? Well, because a testimony, if a testimonial is a story in and of itself, then it's no different. If a testimonial just talks about how they got healthy on the water, remember I talked about that in the internal decision triggers as a second level of influence, but it's not the most powerful, because remember, testimonials nowadays, people don't believe them. They're not as powerful as they used to be, okay? Especially with all the goofing around that's gone on with technology and people being scammed and lied to and all that kind of stuff. So that I would say tell the story. If the testimonial can a story can be weaved around the testimonial, and Anna, that's even more powerful. Okay. So, yeah, you're welcome, Bud and Sandy. Thank you, Nancy. I'm going to have a good 4th. I can't shoot off my dad. Guys, my father, before we get off, my father, he's passed away for several years now, but he used to love 4th of July. That was his favorite holiday over Christmas and everything. And I was thinking about my dad on 4th of July. We have a lot of good memories, especially when my boys were little. They're all grown now, but 4th of July is a special place for me in my heart just because of my father. Thank you, John. I will enjoy my trip. Let's see. Arika says, thank you for your work. Thank you, Arika. I'm going to have a great vacation. Alan, hey, appreciate it, man. And Catherine says how to request a previous webinar link. Just send me an email. Any kind of questions you guys got, any kind of things you need, just send me an email. crocbrain@gmail.com. crocbrain@gmail.com. All right. So with that, thank you for a great webinar. Catherine, you're welcome. We're going to jump off, and I will see you guys. You'll see my stuff. Fired it back up on the 27th. You guys have a good most of July, and enjoy yourself. Remember, go back to the replays, do your homework, get your stories done, start sharing them. Pick another webinar. If you want the webinar replays, do the homework from the webinar replay, and actually take action, guys. I can't stress that enough. I mean, you can sit here and learn all you want, but if you don't take action on the stuff I'm teaching you, you're not going to build your business. Okay, so it's good to learn, but it's better to do. Okay, good to learn, but better to do. All right, and especially if you're doing with the learning you got. Okay, remember, $45 for the no one. With that, guys, have a good rest of the night, and I will see you all on the 27th. All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.